My name is Lloyd. I'm 65 years old, and this is my story. Uh, I started drinking at age 13, drinking and smoking pot. That's relatively early. Uh, and I really started drinking like an alcoholic from the beginning. Uh, by the time I was 15, I was drinking a pint a week on the weekends. I was going to the liquor store. Back in Canada, the drinking age was 18. I certainly didn't look it. I can't imagine a 13 or 14-year-old kid coming up to me today and asking me to buy him a bottle of beer or a bottle of rum, is what I was drinking, rum and Coke. Terrible. Can't imagine what that would be like to see that in this day and age. Uh, so by the time I was 15, I was drinking like a real alcoholic. Uh, my parents had been divorced since I was young, and the threat was, "I'll send you to your father's." And eventually, at age 15, I had a big party where a bunch of the house got damaged, and that was it. I almost literally woke up from my drinking in Portland, Oregon, instead of Vancouver, British Columbia. Uh, I don't necessarily remember the trip from Vancouver to Portland. It was that quick. It was a whirlwind. Uh, I continued my partying. I went to school in Portland. I never went to the same, this was a problem in my life. I never went to the same school 2 years in a row. For my entire grade school and high school education was a different school every year. So I have problems with interpersonal relationships. I can make friends relatively quickly, but I'm not. I get antsy when people get attached to me. I have anxiety over it. Uh, it that's something that alcohol, young and at my young age, alcohol changed that anxiety that I would have and allowed me to party and be free and wild and all of those things like an alcoholic teenager would do. Uh, by the time I was, I don't know, 17 or 18, I was doing cocaine quite a bit. Uh, I'd tried acid, mushrooms, mescaline, you name it. I was doing it. I never got into heroin or any of the really hard drugs. Fentanyl didn't exist back then, or at least not as a street drug. Uh, uh, but I did eventually, when the freebasing cocaine came around, I learned how to cook cocaine and become a cook, and which meant I could get people to bring me their drugs so that I could cook it for them. And then it always the first hits the cooks. And that's how I would get my drugs where I wouldn't have to pay for it. Uh, in my mid 20s, I moved to Florida to work as a painter, painting houses and warehouses, that sort of thing. And uh, there was a lot of drinking and drugs involved in that. I had a girlfriend for a while there when I lived down in South Florida, and I didn't drink or do drugs when I was with her. So that lasted about a year of dryness. Uh, wasn't really necessarily white knuckle dry, but I certainly didn't have a program or anything like that. But it seemed natural not to be loaded all the time. When we had a breakup, and it was a pretty messy breakup, I went right back to drinking and alcohol and cocaine. If I'd have gotten caught, I'd have gone to prison for a pretty substantial amount of time. I never did any real prison time over my alcohol abuse, drug abuse. Although I did get 7 DWIs in my life, but I spread them out amongst over the years and in different states. I got one in Florida, I got one in North Dakota, one in California, and the other ones were in Oregon, Washington. And back then they didn't communicate between uh, uh, the various police entities, didn't communicate as well as they do now. So I didn't have to do a lot of jail time. I did a couple of days here and a couple of days there, uh, but it was never really all that bad. I'd be hungover through it. I wouldn't even hardly notice it. Didn't necessarily want to be alive. Uh, I had problems with ideology early in life, and I had friends that were uh, in the same boat as me. So that was a big part of my story. Uh, I would when I moved back from Florida, I had a shotgun, little tiny thing like this, and I used to sleep with it. That's how bad it was. Uh, I I drank to oblivion. I drove my car almost every time I drank. I drank every night, and I would drive. I would go get drugs. I would go get coke and smoke it. And those in the last years of my drinking and drugging, uh, I wanted to quit. I wanted to quit so badly that in I think it was 1987, which would make me 27 years old, I went to my doctor and had him prescribe Antabuse to me. I asked him to prescribe Antabuse so that I could quit drinking because I couldn't quit drinking. I couldn't go 2 or 3 days without drinking. Uh, that didn't work. I took the Antabuse for a few days and then thought I had it licked and went back at it after a week maybe or two. I still somewhere in my possessions I still have that bottle of Antabuse. It reminds me. It was 10 more years before I sobered up uh, after that uh, uh, bout with Antabuse. Um, like I said, I never did any hard drugs. I actually smoked heroin one time, and that had a negative effect on me. So fortunately, I didn't end up having to endure the needles and all of those things. My brother was a diabetic from age 13, so he had needles, uh, had access to needles, so he used them, and that really affected him. And I saw that from a distance. Uh, he became an addict, and uh, eventually, eventually, he got sober 5 or 6 years before I did, but he lived in a different city in Canada, so I wasn't witness to that. Uh, when he did finally pass away, his diabetes took him, but it was more the toll that the drugs took on his body that took him. Uh, he passed away in his sleep, and I went up there Went up there to get his things. Excuse me. I was sober at the time. I went up there to get his things, and I went to a meeting. And it turned out that it was his home group. They gave me a forever coin for excuse me, for him. And I've since lost it, but I'll never forget the randomness of just showing up in a meeting. And yeah. So I've got 28 years of sobriety now. My sobriety date is 3/15 of 1997. I have a sponsor, and he knows he's my sponsor. Some people, their sponsor, don't even know it. I have 3 sponsees that I'm working with currently, and that's what's helping to keep me sober and keep me alive today. I do the steps at least once a year. I try to. It's sobriety is an amazing thing. Early in sobriety, I went to meetings every day, no matter what, for pretty close to the first year. Sometimes I would go to 2 or 3 meetings in a day. In my first year of sobriety, I couldn't share at a meeting without crying. For actually first months of that, I couldn't even just be at a meeting without crying because I was so fraught with emotion from all of the things that had happened to me in my drinking days. I eventually, I had a problem with the God thing, like many alcoholics do. I didn't believe in God. I absolutely refused to pray to a God that I didn't believe in because I didn't want him to know where I was at. And that's the dichotomy of my spirituality. I didn't believe in God, and I didn't want him to know where I was at. Early in sobriety, I had a sponsor whose wife was Lakota Sioux medicine woman, and she helped me to follow the red road. I went to what's called Wellbriety meetings, which I'm going to a Wellbriety meeting tonight. I found Wellbriety here in the Dalles just a few months ago, and it's made a big difference in my sobriety currently. Wellbriety is the Native American version of AA. It is not affiliated with AA, but it carries similar ideologies, and so I walk the red road now, which helps me to have a spirituality. I still have a problem with the God thing, the word God. I don't. I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of God. I have believed for most of my life that there actually is a God, really. I'm agnostic. And I also believe that all of the religions in some way or form are correct and true. That God will show himself in a way that people can understand, which can be different from all people. So I don't dislike religion or spirituality. What else do I want to say? One of the stories that I tell in my past is when I was early in sobriety. I call it my doorknob story. Old timers back in the day used to talk about religion and having a God of your understanding. It could be a light bulb, it could be a doorknob, it can be anything. Well, I got sent to California on a job site. I was barely a year sober, and I was down in California on a job site. I was a foreman on a construction crew, and I didn't even have a car. I had a bicycle down there, and the company that I was working for put me up in this really shitty little hotel in Santa Rosa, California, and there wasn't anything for miles around except right out in front was a liquor store and drug dealers walking up and down that had crack cocaine for sale. And back then there was no cell phones. I didn't have a cell phone. I had a phone list that was on a little black book about this big, and I had written phone numbers to people in AA, my sponsor and all the people, and I couldn't get a hold of anybody, and I was having a really, really, really tough time. God, I'm just going to be emotional today. That's just how it's going to be. And I remember I was sitting in there, and I could see I had the curtains closed, but I could see through just a crack in the curtains. I could see the drug dealers going back and forth, and I could see the light flashing on the liquor store out there from where I was sitting on the bed. And I was trying to pray that I wouldn't go out the door, that I wouldn't go out there. And I was, God, just help me get through this 24 hours, because the program was 24 hours at a time. And I knew that I couldn't make it 24 hours. I said, God, just please, just give me a few hours. Wasn't going to happen. God, just an hour. God, please, just 10 minutes. That's all I need just to survive 10 more minutes. And I cried and I cried and I cried. And I sat on that bed and I prayed to a God that I didn't believe in to help me through. And I was focused, laser focused on the doorknob of that hotel room. And I knew that all I had to do was not touch that doorknob. And pretty soon I was praying and staring at the doorknob, thinking of God and equating that doorknob with God. And it went on for hours and hours of 5 minutes at a time, a couple of minutes at a time, until I had made it through the whole night. And then I survived. That was a really hard time for me. My early sobriety was white knuckle sobriety. There was a lot of tough times that I didn't think that I was going to survive. That's a lot. It's a lot of emotion to come out all of a sudden this many years later. I get emotional often when I speak at a speaker meeting, so it's not a big surprise to me, but this is a little more than I was expecting. I've done service work in AA most of my sobriety. I've been a GSR, General Service Representative, for my group. I think I have 4 coffee mugs from going to general service meetings. A general service representative is just a liaison between a particular home group and AA as a whole. They have meetings once a year, and you go as a general service representative and represent your group. AA is a bottom up society. There are nobody's in charge, except there are committees and service boards, which is in the literature. Uh, that's how it's structured. I have been a coffee maker, a greeter at the door when I was early in sobriety. I've been a coffee maker later in sobriety too. Just show up early enough to make some coffee. Uh, those kind of things, those kind of service positions, really do help keep you sober. Uh, and if I had one thing to say, it's do the things. Uh, if you're trying to get sober, if you're new to the program, or if you haven't been to the program, show up at a meeting. They will accept you, no matter how far you've gone. Uh, go to the meetings, get a sponsor. It's easy to get a sponsor. Just walk up to just about anybody of your gender, and because women should stick with women in AA and men should stick with men, uh, just walk up to somebody and say, "Hey, can you be my sponsor?" Uh, sometimes the answer would be no, but most of the time it'd be yes, or at least temporarily. Get a sponsor, do the steps, work the steps with your sponsor, do all of the things, get a service position. It helps to keep you grounded in the meetings, uh, and it's amazing the changes that can happen in even a relatively short period of time. Uh, what else do I do as a Oh, I do on Monday nights. I take a meeting into the jail in Skamania County. Uh, I go about every other week. There's a dozen or so guys that we trade off. Turns 2 or 3 people will go into the jail and bring a meeting into the jail. You'd be surprised at how many people are already in the program that are in jail. uh, it's very fulfilling to be able to bring a meeting in there. The inmates are usually almost 100% are grateful to have a meeting, even if it's only just so they get out of their cell for an hour. It's nice for them to have a meeting to go to. Uh, I don't know. I think those are the key things. I have some other stories that involve me not wanting to be alive, uh, that I may not want to share here. Know that that was a problem for me when I was younger, and it's not a problem for me now. I I tell you that with 28 years sobriety, the world is not perfect for me. Uh, bad things happen to good people. Uh, it can be difficult, uh, but there is one thing that I learned early on in sobriety is that. Sobriety is not an absolute guarantee that good things are going to happen to me. But for me, going back out, drinking, doing drugs is an absolute guarantee that bad things will happen. So that's something I keep in my mind at all times. Yeah, when I go into the jail, uh, it's it's I see I see a little bit of me in there sometimes. Oftentimes, the inmates already have a certain amount of sobriety. Often they are soon recently in relapse. And that can be why they're in there. Sometimes they're in there because of things that happened in their past, and they're still in sobriety. Uh, uh, it's rare to have someone that's in jail that hasn't had uh, at least a judge send them to an AA meeting. And it's interesting to see the changes in some of these guys when we go in there. You don't always see the same guys. Often it's new people every meeting. That when we go into the jail, even though it's every Monday night, it's every other Monday night for me, because I do Mondays at the jail. The other Monday, next Monday, is a Wellbriety meeting out here in the Dalles. Uh, but you do see some of the guys. You'll see them. I will see them uh, a couple weeks at a time, every few weeks. There was one guy in particular that my sponsor got to know him in the jail meetings uh, relatively well, because he was uh, he started out when we first met him in there. He was all but hung over on the first meeting that he was at, and not really looking very well. And then he got a little bit better and a little bit better, and pretty soon he was bringing his big book that he got in jail, and he wanted to read things out of the big book as part of the meeting, and and you could see a light go off in that guy's eyes that was really impressive. And then one day he was gone. He got transferred to a different jail down in Vancouver, which is not a nice place. The one in I'm told that the one that's in Stevenson is not bad as far as jails go. The one down there in town is a little rougher. Uh, and then my sponsor got a call from this guy uh, to let him know that he was out. He had had a good experience in the jail in Vancouver, uh, and it just is great to see a change happen like that in a person that was so far gone when he first got there. Uh, like I said, I did not uh, end up in jail more than a couple times, and at that it was only overnight a couple of times. So my experience in jail is limited, fortunately. So only in myself necessarily. Uh, when I was younger, uh, I was not very nice to women. I was not a nice person when I was out there. Uh, I got away with a lot of nasty behavior. Was not a good person, and a lot of that was directed at the girls that I dated. And I got I got my heart broken a couple of times when I was younger, and I took that out on other women later in life, and uh, that was a bridge that I burned. I've never again. I'm not really good at interpersonal relationships. I've been married one time, uh, and that didn't work out. Uh, but oddly enough, we parted as friends and divorced, and she left and went back to back to the North Carolina. There we go. So that was, that was an interesting time in my life in sobriety. Married for 5 years, and it didn't work out. Because addictions and spiritual connections are interrelated. I believe that to be true. Uh, as a society, I don't know. I don't know that I believe that to be a cause and effect. Uh, I believe there's correlation there. The break from spirituality that our society is experiencing as a whole over time uh, I believe, has a negative effect on society. Uh, it's interesting to see young people now in the last 10 years, 20 years or so, uh, even 5 or 10 years, alcohol consumption has dropped in younger people. As far as I know, it's becoming less popular or in a societal way, uh, which I think is a good thing. There's fewer and fewer young people are smoking. That's just because smoking has become, people really realized how bad it is, and there's no benefits. So uh, I smoked from from age 13 when I started drinking. I started smoking, and I smoked until 2 years after I quit drinking. Uh, my my counselor at the rehab that I went to a rehab that I had checked myself into to get when I finally did get sober. I had been to rehabs several times over because of the DWIs that I'd had, but none of them ever really did anything to me. When I was graduating out of my rehab, my counselor said, is there anything else you're wanting to deal with? And I said, well, I'm going to quit smoking. And she said, well, I don't think I would do that right away. It's not a good, you're not in a good space. I was not in a good way when I was early in sobriety. I said, all right, well, I'll wait a year. She said, Lloyd, I think you better wait 2 years because smoking's pretty hard to break. So I had a guy at the Alano Club in North Portland when I was trying to quit smoking. I was coming up on my 2-year anniversary of sobriety, and that was supposed to be the day that I would quit. And I was starting to say, well, I said I was going to wait at least 2 years, and I was humming and hawing about it. And older guy that had been around for ages and ages. I think he had 43 years of sobriety or some crazy amount like that. We were sitting in the back room of the Alano Club, where people sat and smoked all the time. And he said, "Do you want to know how to quit smoking?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Come here." He got me closer and closer, and he grabbed me by my shirt and he pulled my face right up close to his. He said, "Just quit. You won't die." Scared the crap out of me, but it helped. Right. I thought about that a lot when I was actually quitting. Just quit. You won't die. Just try to find a way. There are ups and downs in your addictions, and when you get to that low point, look for some help. It's out there. the help is there. You just have to reach out for it. Uh, you can always go back to your addiction, but sobriety is the way. It really is. It's it's changed my life, and I've watched a lot of people uh, go out the hard way, uh, and it's so sad to see. Uh, just give it a shot. Just give sobriety a shot. One time is all it takes.